Hey everybody, it's Jasmine, and today I'm going to share with you guys all of my top picks for blushes. I have recently been super obsessed with finding that perfect peachy, bashful, embarrassed type of look. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys some of my favorite formulas from all different price points, from drugstore all the way to high end. And let's go ahead and start with the cheapest item in this little bunch. ShopMissA has a line in their collection called the Perfect Pressed Powder line, and that is, I think, one of my absolute favorite lines because everything that they have, from their pressed powders for their face to their highlights to their blushes, all look absolutely amazing on the skin, and they have such beautiful pigmentation as well as color variety. So the blushes are actually something that I find such a hidden gem, because with a lot of the MissA reviews and a lot of the MissA videos, I feel like no one ever really talks about or highlights their perfect blushes. I have 4 colors in my collection that I personally like to use pretty frequently. So the first one that I want to talk about here is Fino, and this one is a brownish type of blush. This one I think is your most natural type of blush. This does double up as bronzer for me. So if I'm going somewhere on like vacation, or if I'm trying to pack minimally, I will pack this one because I could use it as my eyeshadow, I could use it as a blush, I could take it on the apples of my cheeks for the blush, and then also I could use it as a bronzer. And this is just so multitasking, and that's the reason why I love it. And because it's so small, it just fits right into my little small pouch. Auburn is this beautiful cherry red, and I use such a little amount of this. This looks brand spanking new, but I'm telling you, I use this so often because this just adds like the perfect punch of color to the cheeks. It almost looks like you have just been blushing, that you have just been like with the person that you really liked. And I just love the effect that a red blush gives to the cheeks, especially if you are somebody who has a really nice warm yellow undertone. Red and yellow just go perfectly together, so it looks pretty natural, I feel like, without doing too much. The last two are something that I use daily, and that one here is the shade called Wispy, and I feel like this one is like the perfect orangey peach type of blush. I personally love a good orangey blush, and I think that this one, although it's not completely orange, it does have that subtle hint of it, so it looks a little bit more natural on my skin because I did mention that I do have a yellow undertone, so anything in that warm category just really flows well with my cheeks. On days where I feel like I don't need blush, or I just need like a soft kiss of color, then I will go in with the shade here called Dandy. And this is kind of like a little sister to Wispy, but it's just a little bit more on the peach side as opposed to the orangey side. So this one does just look a little bit more subdued, a little bit more toned down, and it almost acts like a blending agent between my bronzer and highlighter shade. They do have so many more shades on the website, so if these ones aren't hitting it for you, definitely take a look on the MissA website just to see all of the color varieties. And just a shameless plug, if you guys do want to support me, I do have an affiliate link down in the description box below. It's always encouraged, never forced. So let's go ahead and move on from this, and let's go ahead and talk about Catrice, because Catrice is probably like my top drugstore blush pick. So the blushes that you guys are familiar with are the Strobing blushes. Now you guys know this because this is on my project pan list for 2020, and although I have used this almost every single day this year, I still feel like it's not going anywhere. Like, it's actually really crazy. So I have 2 shades in this line. This one here is Miss Amber Brown, and this is more of like that brownish type of blush, kind of like Fino from the MissA line. And then I have here Miss Summer Peach. So you can see side by side, they're not completely different, but I think that on the cheeks, you know, you do get like a subtle hint of peachiness here, but then you also get some more of like that nice natural tones in this blush. I can't say if I like one over the other because quite honestly, like they both look really nice on the cheeks. They look absolutely amazing. And I think the one thing that I love about the strobing blushes is how it's in like this little mosaic form where you get a darker shade here, medium, light medium, and a light shade. So it's called a strobing blush because it has some type of shimmer, and the only shimmer particle in this here is usually the lighter shade. I think that there are subtle hints of shimmer with the other peachy tones, the other blush tones in here, but it's not as intense as that light shade. So if you are traveling, this would be great as a little eyeshadow quad as well. So you can use these individually with like a smaller brush, and you can also use this on your face as a highlight, or you can mix it all like how I do it for a nice blushy look. These blushes are also super easy to build up, and I know I talked about the Miss A Auburn shade, and although I do have to use this with a light hand, I can build it up, but because it's such a dark shade, it's harder for me to just go in aimlessly and apply it on my cheeks, while with these ones, I could just start off with, you know, swirling my brush in. If I need more, I can add more. I could go onto the side of the pan to grab a specific shade if I need to, so it's just easy to build, easy to blend, and you can get from light coverage all the way up to full coverage. So they recently collaborated with an influencer by the name of Iman, and she came out with this beautiful blush quad. This is called the Cheeky Blush Palette, and let me tell you, when I first got this blush palette, I wasn't super into like a heavy blush. Like this to me, this is like my medium type of blushy look. I did dabble into this just a very little bit, but I wasn't super into blushes when this launched. So I was looking at this and I was thinking to myself, I don't know, should I keep it or should I give it to somebody? And I'm so glad that I kept it because this is so beautiful. So similar to the Miss A Auburn shade, I do have to go in with a little bit of a lighter hand with this one because the colors are so pigmented and buttery. Now, the thing that I love about this and a lot of the other blushes that I have mentioned is the versatility factor. With these ones, it's easy to blend, so you can also use it as eyeshadows if you'd like, and because the pans are so large, you're able to use any type of size brush to really get in here. The shade that I love the most in this palette is this orangey one here, and that is Luxor. Every other shade in this palette is just super amazing. This shade up here, Alexandria, is really similar to the Nars Orgasm, which I do want to talk about later in this video. I know it's this little sneak peek, but just thought I'd mention that just in case you were looking for a cheaper alternative. And this palette, I believe, is anywhere from like $10 to $12, which is really affordable for a beautiful blush palette that can also double up as an eyeshadow palette as well. If you are looking at my cheeks and you're just like, oh my god, Jasmine, what are you wearing on your cheeks right now? I am wearing the Juno&Co Cherrybomb palette. This is the ultimate palette for me because I actually travel with this. I do, you know, bring some of the other blushes that I have mentioned when I do travel, but I think I've traveled with this one the most. And the reason why is because it has everything that I need. And although this isn't necessarily a blush palette like the Catrice and Iman, this to me is like the perfect face palette, and I thought it would be interesting to mention because although I feel like I could do a whole video on my favorite full face palettes, I think that the blush in here is so different from the other blushes that I have mentioned and all of the other blushes that are in my collection. So for my entire face today, I am wearing everything. I'm wearing this bronzer shade, I'm wearing the blush, and the two highlights. So everything that you see on my face is this palette. I think everything is really easy to blend, but this blush shade in particular is just so shimmery, and I know that might be a little off-putting, but it's shimmery in the right ways because when you swatch it, it is like this silky texture. So the shimmers are not chunky. It's almost like a melted pearl on the skin. Like once you apply it, it literally melts into the skin and it makes the skin look so soft and smooth even if you have texture. There have been times where I had acne on my skin, but this just complemented my cheeks as opposed to it looking more horrible, more textured. It just has like this really unique formula that I don't see in a lot of other blushes, because this feels more of a cream, but it's not a cream and it's not a powder. It's like a hybrid, which is really amazing, which is why I feel like it's so unique. And if you guys are eyeing this palette, you could totally use the code ThatsSoYin at checkout to save you guys a little bit of extra money. But the Cherrybomb palette is another palette that I just feel like has to be in my collection at all times. And it has to be in my travel bag because it works so incredibly well for not only your face, but also eyes. And I'm just like the type of person who likes versatility. That's just how I feel like my money is being well spent. The last blush I want to mention is something that I feel like everyone has tried, and it's a blush that I already mentioned in the video, and that is the Nars Orgasm blush. I have here a small little sample that I got as a free birthday gift from Sephora. Was it Sephora? No, it was Ulta years ago, and it's still in mint condition. I have used this so much. I think I used it for like 6 months straight, and it doesn't look like I have used it at all, which is absolutely amazing and insane because it's a small blush, but it doesn't look like I use it at all. So imagine if I had the full size. As you see with this blush near my face, you can kind of see that this blush tone is a little different from the other tones that I have mentioned. I gear towards something a little bit more brown, a little bit more orangey, a little bit more warm. And as you see here, this is definitely like a blue tone bubblegum pink, right? But for some odd reason, it looks great on the skin because it has like a very soft, subtle hint of golden warm shimmers. So although it is a little off as far as like the pink tone is concerned for me and my personal preference, I think that because of the shimmer, it ends up working out and it ends up looking a little bit more warm on the skin, and it doesn't look ashy, which is a fear that I have with blushes because it has happened before. Because of my undertone, it is hard for me to use something that looks a little cool tone like this, but it works. And I think it's a bestseller for a reason. I think it is a cult classic for a reason, and that's because it looks more universal than a lot of the other cool tone blushes that I have seen, and a lot of other warm tone blushes as well. So definitely something that I feel like is worth the investment, because from personal use, it looks like you haven't used any at all. It looks great on everybody, and I think that if you can get this on sale, or if you can get it as a mini or like a little duo, I know sometimes they sell like these little duos with the Orgasm blush and then the Laguna bronzer. If you could get it for some type of deal, definitely try it. And you know, to be honest, I'm not the biggest Nars fan. I mean, granted, I haven't used a whole bunch of their items, but from the Nars items that I have tried, I haven't really been disappointed. So I mean, it's worth a shot and it's worth a splurge, if you will. So I hope you guys all enjoyed some of my favorite blushes in my collection. I did try to not mention blushes that were discontinued because you guys know me. I am unfortunately like a unlucky soul, and everything that I love always gets discontinued. But I do want to mention one blush that I think deserves a mention, even though it is discontinued. And I know I didn't want to mention it, but I have to. I literally have to. Back in high school, I was not the biggest fan of pinky blushes like the ones that I mentioned in this video, and I wasn't really a fan of the brown blushes that I have mentioned either. I was definitely that person who wanted something that was in between a bronzer and a highlighter, so I wanted something of a light gold type of situation, but also gave color to my cheeks. And I felt like the perfect color was from MAC, and this one is in the shade Trace Gold. Unfortunately, they don't make this shade anymore, but it is like this really interesting shade because it's not quite brown, but it's not quite pink, and it's not quite gold, like pure gold, you know what I mean? So if you are trying to get into blushes, definitely try and find a shade kind of like this. I think it's like the perfect intro blush for you. But yeah, I don't want to talk too much about it because it's kind of sad that they discontinued it. I feel like MAC discontinues everything that I know and love. But anyway, I hope you guys all really enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Comment down below what your favorite blush is. I would love to know, because I feel like for everyone it's different, because everyone has different texture preferences, everyone likes different finishes, so I'm just curious on what you really like. And before you leave, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, ring that notification bell to get notified of my Monday, Wednesday, and Friday uploads, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye! Peace out, Girl Scouts.